Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley.
And I'm Jack Doherty.
And our guest today is a good friend of the show, here to talk about his new book, Midnight, which was written and illustrated by him himself. It's a gorgeous book, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. We welcome back four-time Emmy Award winner, editor, artist, film critic, cartoonist, and author, Bryan Erdy to the show. Bryan, welcome back, sir. It's been a minute.
It has been, and it is awesome to see the both of you. I always have a great time when I'm on this podcast, and I always go back and listen to the shows afterwards, and I was like, man, that's fun. I wish we could do it more.
Absolutely. We can do it as often as you want to, honestly. I mean, 2 years is too long. We've waited too long.
I can't believe it's been 2 years.
I know.
Almost 2 years, yeah. It's crazy how time flies, isn't it? Especially I've always kept tabs on the amount of time that's passed on how many episodes we put out, but now that they're going out so sporadically every 2 to 3 weeks,
it's even harder to pay attention.
It's even harder to absolutely. But we're going to have a lot of fun today. To kick off the episode, we're going to be going around talking about some of our favorite dream sequences from films and television. I've got a few that I'm excited to see what you guys have got. This one made me think. I was really surprised. I thought it would be easy, but it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. What about you guys?
It was pretty hard. I had to look up some stuff, and I was just like, well, haven't seen that, haven't seen that, haven't seen that, haven't seen that.
I think I've got a few deep cuts, so I'm excited to see what everyone else brought to the table. And then we're going to turn our full attention over to Bryan to talk about Midnight. So, who wants to kick it off? Jack, why don't you kick us off, man? Let's talk about your favorite dream sequence in film and television.
My first one is, we've actually kind of touched on it in one of our first long videos, one of our video productions when Jeff, one of our old hosts, was on. And we did that whole going away video, and we did that little bit of a dream sequence that we stole right from The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, well, at least a section of it. But people are wondering what we're talking about. It's one of the first things we ever put up on our YouTube, aside from a few unboxing videos. So it's been out there for a long time, but it's still probably one of those things that we've worked on harder than anything else we've ever done for this show. It's fun to go back and check that out occasionally, but that was a lot of fun and a pretty wacky dream sequence.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, the one in the video, all of a sudden it falls into Star Wars, but it starts out with the bowling alley part where the Big Lebowski's flying right down the lanes and hits the pins.
Yeah, I think he goes through Super Mario World at one point, and then he shrinks down. He's flying around the studio. Like it was a lot of fun to do. So you guys should check that out on our YouTube. Again, you'd have to scroll way back.
I was going to say it's way at the bottom,
but it was fun. Stop motion animation. I mean, we spent probably 5 to 6 months making that thing. And the video only ended up being like 5 minutes long, if that. All that work for such
the whole length of what's the name of the song from Beetlejuice that we took from?
Oh crap! What's the official name?
Shakes.
The other one.
Jump in the line. Jump in the line.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Jump in the Line.
It was that whole song. So that's a pretty long song, actually. That was getting hard to edit towards the end because. Yeah,
but we didn't do the whole song, remember? We kind of got to a point where it was like, we're sick of doing this, and the song just cuts off. It just jumps back to...
Started running out of footage. I was like, I don't know what to put in here else.
Well, if we wanted to finish the song, it was easily going to be another 5 months of stop animation, which we, at that point, were like, no way, we're done.
No,
That's it.
I got to see this now because you had me at stop motion. And the fact that you took the time to do that, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where when we did it, we're like, this is going to be a great learning experience. But it was so, oh my God, it took so much time and so much work that I was like, we're going to chill for a while on that. And we just never got back to it. But I would like to someday. I certainly would.
All filmed with an iPhone 8, I think it was.
It's pretty primitive, Bryan. Don't get your hopes up too high. But I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. It's just made with all the toys that were on the shelf behind us at the time, all spring to life. But anyway, we're spending too much time on us. So let's move on to Bryan. Bryan, favorite dream sequence?
I'm going to go into the world of television, and I did not have a lot of experience with this particular director. I'd seen a few of his movies. Nothing really resonated to the degree that it did once I saw the first episode of Twin Peaks.
Okay. I've never watched that show.
I've never either. Yeah. I think I
You've
was
never
too young when it was on. I think I was too young to watch it, or the parents wouldn't let me watch it. And then it ended, and I grew up, and I hear about it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
The dream sequence you don't really need any context because it's Agent Cooper, played by Kyle MacLachlan, directed by David Lynch. Agent Cooper has a dream and he goes into this room and there's a dwarf dancing. And as the dwarf talks, they reverse the dialogue, and it is just the most surreal thing that I had ever seen up to that point. And just so dreamlike and so creepy, and it totally got me hooked. And I was officially a David Lynch fan after I'd seen that. Now, have you guys seen The Burbs?
With Tom Hanks?
Yes.
A long time ago, and
long ago.
I tried to watch it, I think last weekend, but it wasn't streaming anywhere that I could watch it, so I was kind of upset. It's kind of funny that you bring it up.
Yeah. That's funny. That's got a great Jerry Goldsmith score, and if you are able to track it down, I think you can get it on Apple Plus for like $5. And it's got a great dream sequence in it too. Not quite as good as Lebowski, but it's pretty funny. They're actually Tom Hanks is watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he falls asleep, and the a guy, one of his neighbors, wielding a chainsaw starts chasing him through the house, and it morphs and it twists, and he ends up with all of his neighbors surrounding him on a giant grill, and he's being barbecued.
Oh, wow.
It is so crazy, but definitely worth checking out.
Wow. Yeah, it has been a long time since I've seen that. So long that I should just say I haven't seen it because I don't remember anything about it. I was young. That was what? One of his first films, right?
It was 88.
It was earlier, yeah.
87, wow. 88. So yeah.
Wow. It was a couple of months ago. It was on and I had started watching it. And I don't know if it was on Amazon or if it might have been on Netflix, but I was like, oh, The Burbs, I haven't watched this forever. And then I got pulled away and then it disappeared.
Man, oh, that happens.
That it does. That it
now,
does.
How about you?
My pick is also from television, and I've brought this up before, but I think one, it's been a while, and two, it was completely different context. But do you guys remember the show Newhart?
Oh yeah,
Bob Newhart's show where he's running the
Larry Darryl
breakfast.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, do you remember the last episode of that show where at the very end he wakes up in bed with his wife from the Bob Newhart show, his first
original
sitcom.
One. Yeah.
Yep. Which in turn made that whole series a dream that you don't realize until you watch it all the way through, which it's crazy how often that comes to mind because it's so fucking clever, I think.
You know, the fact that they included it the way that they did was just genius.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, go for it.
I'm going to pivot a little bit about something similar, so please finish your thought.
Well, I was actually going to do the same thing. There was another show that kind of did the same thing, but not as gracefully. When Roseanne came back on the air before it came to Connors, before the Ambien and Twitter thing.
Yeah.
You know, that series had originally ended with what was it? Roseanne was writing her book and kind of narrating the end of the series, and Dan had died of a heart attack. Well, when the new series starts, he's awake in bed, and it turned out it was just a dream kind of a thing. And I thought, don't get me wrong, great to see John Goodman back, but that was a little sloppy.
I think it was just kind of a rush job for why he was back because he was such a staple in that show.
Of course. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Breaking Bad did a similar twist on that Newhart gag. It's not part of the show, but it was like a DVD extra. I'm pretty sure you can find it online. But basically, after the final shot of Breaking Bad, Walt wakes up, but he's his character from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes, I have
And he
seen that.
wakes up in bed next to her, and he's like, I was a drug dealer, and I was partners with this little man waif. And hysterical.
Man wave. I forgot about that. Yeah, I have seen that. What was his Hal and Lois? Was that it? Was that the
Hal and
names?
Lois, yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's clever. That's clever as shit. I love
It
it.
was so weird to see him as like that was my first experience seeing him as Hal, and then all of a sudden seeing him in Breaking Bad later on. It's so different a character.
Well, some of the first times you see Walter White turning into that the drug dealer, you see him in his underwear at the RV, and you're like, you know what? For somebody like yourself and myself, and I'm sure Brian, who first exposure to Bryan Cranston was Malcolm in the Middle. If I recall, we saw him a lot in his underwear in that show. So to see him in his underwear on Breaking Bad, I was like, oh, this is nothing new. It must be something he requires before he'll sign a contract.
John Hamm tells this great story about Breaking Bad and Mad Men being launched right about the same time. And they have to come in costume for like a publicity photo for AMC. And he shows up in a suit, and Bryan Cranston comes in, and he's got the apron and his underwear on. And it's like he's like, yeah, I Ham is like, I definitely got the better gig from this end, standing there in his suit while Cranston's in his underwear, which I thought was funny.
It must just, he's like, yeah, I'll do your show, but I've got to be in my underwear at some point. Like, sure, Brian. I don't know. Or if he's just typecast to be in his underwear. Like if he reads a script, you're like, come on, guys, again? Like, are you really writing me in my underwear again?
We didn't have to see it in Seinfeld, because he was in Seinfeld too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was Tim Watley, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The
dentist.
the dentist who converted to Judaism.
Right, yeah.
You're an anti-dentite. All right, we are back around to Jack.
I know you haven't seen it unless you've watched it, but Better Off Dead. John Cusack had a couple of dream sequences in that one. That one of them, he was working at a fast food place, and he would just go off into just imagination, La La Land, pretty much. But at one point, he ends up becoming like a Dr. Frankenstein, and takes the little chain like thing during a storm. It gets hit by lightning, brings it down. Then he's got a burger, and it comes to life, and it starts playing Everybody Wants Some by Van Halen, because that was the tagline for the restaurant. Meanwhile, while he's everything's going on, the hamburger's playing guitar and singing, and then the owner of the restaurant comes in, and he's just standing there in front of the grill, and there's just meat and shit all over the place. He just tore it up and destroyed it, and the guy throws him out. There's a couple, I can't think of the other ones, but there's a couple of different times that he just goes off the rails thinking about different stuff, just because he got broken up with his girlfriend, and when you get broken up with and nothing matters, you don't want to live anymore. So
you're talking like you'll be watching the film and then just weird shit like starts happening, like he's slipped off into a dream sequence kind of a thing, or?
Yeah, pretty much. At one point he's sitting there at lunch, and he looks down at his notebook paper, and it's a monster and his girlfriend, a drawing, and they start talking and having a conversation with him. So I guess it's kind of a daydream. It's not really a sleeping dream, but yeah.
Interesting.
Which that animation we just had the guest on not too long ago.
Who? Oh, Bill Kopp?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Future episode. It has not been released yet, so keep your eye on YouTube for that one. Great one, though. Great one. But good pick. Good pick. What about you, Brian?
I've got one more, and I will call it the ultimate dream sequence. Because by the time you get to the end of the movie, you realize the entire movie was a dream, and that's The Wizard of Oz.
Okay, I was like, is it?
Wow.
It is, yeah.
Great pick. Yeah, that didn't even dawn on me.
Yeah, I was, and I'm sure I did the same thing that you guys did when when this topic was brought up. I immediately was like, okay, top 10 dream sequences in movies. Let me refresh here. And I was surprised that that none of the lists had Wizard of Oz. So they all had similar ones: Vertigo and Eight and a
Inception.
Half,
Definitely
Inception.
Inception. Yeah.
But yeah, Wizard of Oz is completely a dream. Wakes up, you
Yeah.
were there, you were there, you were there.
I didn't even
So
think about that, but you're
And
right.
what's so
Yeah.
weird about that is there's the whole Wicked storyline that it makes it like it's a whole real story, but I mean, really, it was all just a dream anyway. So how does that
right,
even work?
Prequel dream.
Yeah.
This is the dream she had the night before.
Yeah, right. And she wasn't even there. She just witnessed it all, I guess.
I love
Quite an
that title.
imagination on Dorothy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I'd love that title. If I ever write my autobiography, it's going to be called Prequel Dream.
There you go.
Prequel Dream. That's cool.
Somebody write it down. Well, I guess we're recording it, so we don't have to write it down, right?
Yeah, it's copywritten right now.
All right. Was that all, Brian?
That was my last
Your
pick.
That was a good pick. That was a good one. That, again, would have never occurred to me. And you know what? You were right. I was thinking about getting online and checking out that list, but I was like, man, I've got to be able to think of something without looking at it. So I racked my brain, and one thing that came to mind that had me diving for YouTube because I forgot all about it was an episode of Wayne's World from SNL. And you remember how they would do the
No, you tell me. I think I know which one it is.
well, take a stab. Which one?
Madonna.
Yep, the Madonna one.
I thought about that one. I did.
Oh my God, it was so funny. And revisiting was even better because they were playing Truth or Dare, right?
Yeah.
Wayne was on the bed with Madonna, Garth standing by the bed. Truth or Dare. And he's like, she's like, Dare. I dare you to make out with me. All right, Wayne. He's like, excellent. He did that 2 or 3 times throughout the thing. It never gets old. Just the way he looks so cheesy into the camera when he says it. But the thing that was so fucking funny was like all these I don't know why I think German, but like German like leather bondage dancers in the background. And then Garth is in just an all black bodysuit doing this dance. It was so fucking funny. But then even he gets overwhelmed. Like all these people in leather are all over him. He's like, Wayne, we gotta go. We gotta
go. Trying to get out of it.
I found Wayne make a comment about like, it's like, dude, we can see your junk.
Yeah, you're right. And it's funny because I got on YouTube. I thought that would be easy to find. And there was like a super pixelated, like 30-second clip from it. I had to find it on Vimeo. But I advise, if you haven't seen it, watch it because it is funnier than hell. Even to this day, it is so funny.
When they like, Madonna, no way. And she's just like, way. And she pulled that line. She actually did it all right, too.
Yeah. Then at the end when they're leaving, like, well, we got to go, Madonna. Will I ever see you again? Of course you will. Really? Nah.
Yeah. That's excellent. Awesome. You do pretty good, Wayne.
Well, thank you. I've been working. I spent all night last night, like in the mirror, perfecting it for this moment. Paid off, I guess.
Time well spent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. I've got one more, unless you guys have any other ones you wanted to get off your chest.
I've got one more.
Go for it, Jack.
So it's probably the worst. I don't know if it's the worst movie of all the sequels of it, but it's probably the one that's joked about the most, at least on our show too, was Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The Dream Warriors.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That was cringeworthy.
The way he killed all those kids, like all the other ones, it was just, I don't know. These ones were more of a theme killing versus because each kid was like their own character,
right?
Versus just a regular teenager.
That was the video game one?
No, well, I think there was one part with the video game because the one kid was kind of a nerd. But I know the one kid had marionette puppets, and Freddy killed him like a marionette, which that one always bothered me, just the way he cut his arms, and then all his muscles and stuff were coming out, and he was hung by that.
Ugh.
The chick that got killed in the Roach Motel, that she got turned into a cockroach.
Wow.
And then the girl
sounds like a Twilight Zone, doesn't
it? Right. And then the one girl that I never forget the line when she appears in dreams. She's just like, yeah, in the dream world, I'm beautiful, and then pulls out 2 switchblades and is like, and I'm bad, and has this big faux hawk. But she was like, she was, dealt with drugs and like, I guess heroin, obviously, because she had track marks. But Freddy's like, let's try a new drug, and pulls up his hands, and they're all syringes. And then she looks at her track marks, and they're all suckling like they're hungry. That part is a little disturbing, but I don't know, just the way that he killed all those kids in that one, it was more fun. I think that's why I like that one so much.
Yeah. Those films, even though some of the sequels are pretty corny and haven't aged well, you got to give them the fact that they did absolutely everything they possibly could with practical effects. They took it to the absolute limit of their budget. You know what I mean? Like they still made some pretty horrifying imagery, like you were talking about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Even if the film itself wasn't great, even if we all didn't want to be dream warriors.
I just felt bad for the one nerdy kid that was in a wheelchair, because he was big into like D&D and stuff. So he was this, you thought would have been a super powerful wizard in the dream world, but Freddy owned his ass so fast. I don't even remember how he killed him, but he didn't last at all.
Probably couldn't get away very fast, huh?
Well, no, he was able to walk.
Oh, in the dream realm he was?
Yeah, but his magic didn't stand a chance to Freddy.
Oh, man. Well, Freddy's magic is from Satan, and this kid's magic just isn't real, right? It's from science fiction. I can see how he might lose.
Yeah.
But all right. Anything else on that, Jack?
Nope, that's it. You had one more?
I've got one more, and this comes from South Park. Don't know if you guys remember the episode where there were people in town who were getting high on cat piss.
Oh, vaguely, I remember that one.
Whoa.
I'll take it Brian doesn't remember either. So what they were doing is there was an epidemic in South Park where they were setting a cat up in this tripod, and they would put it in front of a television where it was playing images of cats, and to make the cat agitated and spray. So you'd wait with your face by the cat's ass and wait for it to spray. And when it sprayed, you inhaled it really deep, and it was supposed to make you trip really bad. So Kenny got hooked on it. And when he would do it, it would all of a sudden shoot him into the world of heavy metal. Like the old 80s heavy metal movie. Yeah.
Right.
That exact same kind of animation. Everything was made of tits. Everything was tits. The mountains were tits. The buildings were tits. Everything was tits. And he goes with this great big breasted girl riding a dragon back to the castle, and her father's there, and he tells Kenny, he's like, thank you for rescuing my daughter. You may bathe in Lake Titicaca and wash upon my daughter's rockin' tits. Like it was just constantly like that. But then when it would cut back to real life, you'd see Kenny just like with his pants off, all disheveled, piss all over his face, like it's just wandering through town. It was so funny.
I gotta look that one up, man. That and that's from the TV show. That's not from one of the movies.
Yeah, that's from the TV show. It's an older episode too, so you should be able to find it fairly easy. And if you don't have, because what is that on? Is that Max? You should be able to find that clip on YouTube.
I think you can watch South Park on Paramount. That's a Paramount show. I think it's on Paramount Plus. But don't let me be the judge.
Well, it's a weird thing, man, because like around the pandemic, they jumped to Max, and I know they're still on Max because I just checked there a while ago, but I know a lot of their specials were only releasing on Paramount Plus for the longest time. So it's like they premiered on Paramount and then ended up on Max. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
But I don't know where just to get more viewers and subscribers on Paramount.
I guess. I just don't know where they officially call their home, at least for streaming. I know they still air on Comedy Central, but I'm excited. A new season's supposed to be coming back, so
boy,
amped for that.
The streaming stuff is so it's so weird how they do that. They'll premiere on one. Yellowstone did that, where they would show, you could watch some of the Yellowstone episodes on the streaming service while its spin-offs were on another. And if I've made this joke on this show before, I apologize. I will pay a fee, okay? But I heard somebody describing all of these different streaming services by saying, you know, somebody should take all of these streaming services and bundle them together and call it cable.
Yes. Right.
Well,
it ends up
that's
being
what's
the same
happening
price.
too. Because like Hulu and Disney have now bundled, and I know there's other streaming services that have done the same. But you're right. I mean, and it's a matter of time before enough of them bundle where it gets to be just as much as cable TV is,
Right.
But at this point, I would still rather have the streaming service. I have really said goodbye to network television. We haven't had it for at least 6, 7 years now.
Yeah.
And when I do see it, it looks foreign. It's a weird thing.
I was at my mom's last night and they still have network TV. And I was sitting there watching it and seeing all kind of local commercials. And I was like, where am I?
Yeah. It's funny too, because as long as it's been, every year, my mother still, like at Christmas, she goes, "Hey, Rudolph's on tonight on Channel 7. Make sure to watch." I'm like, "Mom, we've been through this. Don't have it." Anyway, was there anything else with Dreamscapes across film, television, gentlemen?
Nope.
Dream Warriors. Not on my end, but those we've got some great picks.
I think we did.
I know what I'm going to be doing tonight.
Watching Kenny trip on cat piss.
Right.
All right. Well, with that behind us, let's turn our attention over to Bryan to talk about his new book, Midnight. Again, thank you, Bryan, so much for sending a copy over this way to check out. We had that conversation on the phone about, when was it? About a month ago.
Yeah.
And just hearing your story behind it was awesome. But I don't want to tell it for you. So why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners and the viewers about Midnight?
Absolutely. So before I got into video production, I spent my entire high school career preparing myself to be like an art teacher or a cartoonist or something like that. But when I discovered video in high school, it was the one thing that I was better at than anybody else. And I loved it. So I kind of gravitated to that. And yet I always continued to draw and play around with it. And the genesis of all of this came from a drawing that I did in like when I was 19. It was like 1989. And I'm fairly certain that, as was often at the time when I was drawing this particular drawing, I think I had loaded up pretty well. And I was feeling pretty good and feeling especially creative. Yeah. And yeah. And I just drew this picture of this kind of creepy little girl, and she's got a gown on, she's barefoot, she's walking through this pile of notes, of musical notes, and she's kicking the musical notes and they fly out. Now, we didn't have social media back then, and so a few of my friends saw it. They were all like, "Hey, that's pretty cool. What's all that about?" And that's just the way it was. And it went into storage, and I didn't see that drawing for 30 years.
Jesus Christ, I didn't realize it'd been that long.
30 years in storage. I had my pod delivered to Atlanta a couple years ago. And going through it was like Christmas. I mean, I hadn't seen all of this stuff in decades, and I'm going through my sketchbooks, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. There's that drawing of that little girl." So I scanned it, and I just threw it up on social media, Instagram, Facebook, just threw it up. And I was totally not prepared for the response that picture got. We're talking, if I post, like when I would post a Bryan's House of Waffles cartoon on Facebook, I get 10 or 12 views. If it was the Taylor Swift one, maybe 30. This thing got 700 likes.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
At 50 comments. And one of the recurring comments was, dude, I want to know more about this character. Who is she? Where are her eyes? What's her story? You should think about like doing a kid's book with this character. And look, if you say to Bryan Erdy, I love your artwork and you should make a kid's book out of it, hold my beer. Okay. So I took that on as a challenge and said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to have to learn about self-publishing. I'm going to have to get back into the habit of drawing well, drawing to have the ability to take this character and draw it 40 different poses, 40 different scenes, and make it look consistent. And again, I hadn't done anything of this, professional level in a while. So I sat down. It only took me 20 minutes to write the story. And, the show's about dreams, talking about dreams. As I looked at the character, I thought, how do I navigate and create a narrative for her to, engage in a story? And I thought, well, why don't we have it be all about dreams? And we're going to have a real life little 12-year-old girl named Mindy Knight. Okay. And every night she's a typical girl. She loves to read. She's got a dog named Mac. And every night when Mindy falls asleep, as she begins to dream, she turns into this dream persona of this character called Midnight. And it was a chance to just come up with very imaginative scenarios and make it very innocent, very sweet. For an example, I have an image of Midnight sitting next to a lion, and the caption and basically the theme of the book is when you dream, anything is possible. When you dream, you can, lions are never scary and they love to tell you jokes. And I just rolled with that and came up with as many as I could and began the part of illustrating them. And writing the story, like I said, writing it took 20 minutes. Coming up with this concept, 20 minutes. Drawing them took a lot longer. I got back into practice, and it took me about a year to get the images to where I liked them. And I felt good enough, like this, I'm ready to show somebody this and get some real feedback. And I have a friend who's somewhat associated with the publishing industry, took a look at it and said, that is a viable IP. And kind of your drawing illustrations kind of look like Shel Silverstein. I was like, well,
oh my God, I thought the same. Okay. I thought
I'll
the same
take that.
thing.
I'll take that
Definitely take
compliment.
that. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
And he said, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. And I'm like, okay. He says, you need to add color to it. And I was like, well, Shel Silverstein didn't use color. And he goes, yeah, but you're not Shel Silverstein.
Yeah.
And he goes, so he says, you need to add color to it. Well, I'm like, you know what? I went down to Barnes and Noble and I went to the children's book section and I started looking at all the books. And number one, there are no black and white children's books. So, right. Okay, fine. And the second thing I noticed is all of these children's books are the same. They're just like Larry the Angry Iguana. Who pooped on the dinosaur? They're all just creepy animals and lots of farting and pooping. And I'm like,
yeah,
is this where we're at with kids' books? So that's why I wanted to make something just very, very innocent and beautiful and creative and colorful. But I don't color. I can't paint. I can drag and drop digitally and do color, but I don't paint. So I had to put the brakes on, and I hired a guy off of Fiverr to teach me to digitally paint watercolor. And that took about a year to get good enough where I could go back to my images and paint them and create what you see in the book today. One of the things I found when you talk about the fact that I told a few people, I was like, hey, I'm going to do this children's book. And I'm going to take this image that I did when I was a kid. I'm going to make a book of it, and I'm going to get it published on Amazon. And people are like, oh, okay, okay. Well, can't wait to see you on the bestseller list. And that's a good motivation. But I'm 3 years into this process, and I'm trying to stay focused on it. But we're all busy. We all have 1,000 things to do. And I just couldn't get over the hump. And one day I was playing around with Chat GPT and I took one of my black and white midnight images and I threw it in and I said, paint this. And about 2 minutes later, it just goes bloop and it's beautiful. It looks fantastic. And that was the moment where I was like, any 7-year-old with access to a computer can do in minutes what I just spent 3 years working on. So I need to finish this now. I need to get this done, get this up, and get this available and share it. So that was a good motivation to get the thing finished. And my favorite part of this process, I finally get everything done. I'm ready to submit it to Amazon. I went through and learned how to self-publish, how to make sure it gets approved. And just when I'm about ready to pull the trigger, I was talking to that same person who was just like, oh, you gonna write a screenplay too? And I said, hey, check this out. And I took a snapshot of all my midnight pages laid out. And I said, remember that children's book I was mentioned to you a while back? He goes, oh yeah, whatever happened with that? And I sent him the picture. And I love this so much. He comes back to me and he's like, holy shit. He goes, you did that? I was like, I did that. And he goes, okay, that's really cool. When can I buy it? And this is a middle-aged guy who is like, when that is available, please send me the link. I will buy that. He's not the target audience, but I love the fact that, this type of expression, this type of creativity, this type of book can speak to anybody. It's not just targeted for, little girls. So that's really fulfilling.
I mean, I can relate to that, having read it myself. I don't even know how to explain it because you're right. I'm not the demographic, but I love looking at it and just the explosion of the color you were talking about, especially since you start the book, when she's seemingly awake, and I hope I'm not giving away too much here, but when she's awake, no. It's in black and white and she has, a normal face like you would expect. But when it crosses over into that dream realm and all that color comes to life, it just accentuates that so much more. And, the great thing about what you're doing here, Bryan, is that you can continue to do it for as many books as you want. This could be a series that never has an end. There are endless possibilities what you could write this book about, the dream realm, what you can do in the dream realm. Right. So that's brilliant because, I don't know what you plan to do with this. Like, do you want it to be a series? Is this a one and done thing?
When two things happened that will answer that question. The first thing that happened was when I set up my Amazon account, they said, is this book a one-off or is this going to be part of a series? And I was like, it's a series.
There you go.
And then the second thing that happened was I am not doing this half-assed. I have a website that's going to launch with the book. I have tons of merchandise from Redbubble that's going to be available when the book releases. I've got a Facebook page. You were kind enough to let me come on and talk about it. I'm taking this very, very seriously, and I'm all in. And when I had to buy the website domain, the word midnight wasn't available, but Midnight and Mac. Mac is the name of her dog. Midnight and Mac is available. So I purchased that domain. And my friends, if I sell, the average Amazon self-published book sells 200 books. I did the research. I looked into it. That's what most people do. Okay. If I can double or triple that, then I'm absolutely going to move forward and do a sequel and do Midnight and Mac. And I just love the idea of going into your dream world with your dog who's insane. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I fully intend on carrying on with this. And if there's an interest, I'll do it as long as people are enjoying it.
Yeah, and I think people will enjoy this quite a bit. Now, I know it's probably going to be available on Amazon, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I would imagine that Mac and Me, holy shit,
oh
Midnight.
Gosh,
talking about old movies, right?
Speaking of kids in wheelchairs.
Midnightandmac.com, I would imagine, would be another avenue for people to get their hands on it. Where can people get their hands on it other than these places when it does launch? Well, actually, by the time people hear this, it will be out. So where can people get it?
It launches Sunday, May 25th, this coming Sunday, and it'll be available on Amazon. You can order it direct from midnightandmac.com, and midnightandmac.com will also be your one-stop shop for the Midnight merch. And I am right now in the process of going through the application process and approvals to get it on Apple Books. So you can purchase it through Apple digitally. And the Kindle e-version will launch in about a week.
Okay, cool. Nice. Wow. So it's going to be almost pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah. Wow. I would love to be able to have it in like brick and mortar stores, but this is the avenue available to me, and we'll see.
And we're moving in a direction where people typically order shit online anyway instead of going to brick and mortar to get it, right?
Yeah.
So, man, it's so awesome. When you called and we're talking about this book, I was so excited for you because you could hear the excitement in your voice. You could hear the passion that you had for this project. So when you were like, I'm going to send a copy, you already know it's going to be great. I mean, I guess you had sent me some artwork. Is it okay to put some of that stuff on the screen to show people
absolutely
what the illustrations look like?
Absolutely.
I mean, I could hold the book up to the screen, but I don't want to do that. You got to buy the book, people. Check it out. But
and I'll
go ahead.
I'll tell you one thing. This is a kid's book, but I think it's ageless, and I think humbly the feedback. Okay, the feedback that I've gotten, the images are beautiful, and it's just something pleasant to go through. Now, look, you can this weekend, this holiday weekend, you can go out and you can get your $40 bottle of Grey Goose, okay, or you can get the $20 Svedka bottle of vodka. And the $18.99 that you have left over, you can support an independent artist, and you will have a good time doing it.
Boom.
You absolutely will. And like you were saying before, man, like so many of the books you see in the children's area, not that I look, but I believe it when you say, so many of them are around like, like everybody poops, or like they all kind of have an agenda on how to like form and shape the kid, where this is just straight, just fun. It's just magical, whimsical kind of stuff. Something that I think would be great for like putting the kid to bed. You know what I mean?
My neighbors have two little girls, and they are definitely the target audience.
Yeah.
And so I went over, and their mom knew I was doing this, and she was very excited when I told her that I got some test copies in. And so I took a copy over to her two little girls, and they were just engrossed to the point where they were starting to fight over it. So I went back. I went back to the house. I got a second copy, and I was like, "No fighting. Everybody gets their own copy." And the 9-year-old, she's asking me questions like, "You drew this all by yourself?" I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "So like someday I could draw like this?" I was like, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
And I said my goodbyes, and she walked up to me and hugged me and says, "Thank you for this book." And I'm telling you, it's just like, you know what? If I sell 40 copies, that right there of making two little girls excited was something that I was able to create from a drawing I did when I was a kid. That is what all of this is about.
That's incredible, man. That's got to be an amazing feeling.
What a payback. Something that you did a long time ago coming back
30 years ago, man. 30 years ago.
I don't think I have anything from that long ago.
Do you remember what your original intention was for this character when you drew her all that time ago?
I joke about probably being pretty high at the time when I drew it, but I have a drawing style which is very similar to Jack Kirby. You guys are familiar with Jack Kirby?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And I don't know if this is apocryphal, but I have seen documentaries, I've seen other people talk about Jack Kirby, where he didn't lay out pencils, okay? He used a pen, and drew and inked he inked basically. There was no pencil work. He would ink and he would start up at the corner and he would draw the entire panel because he saw it in his head. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And again, I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but it's a good story. But I kind of draw the similar way, and I can tell you exactly. I mean, it was 30 years ago, but I still remember it. I was laying on my bed, storming outside, couldn't go out, and I drew a circle, and I drew the two little eyes. I didn't give them pupils. I drew the hair, and this she just kind of formed and came together, and it just looked like a Tim Burton-esque little creepy little girl. And I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And I was like, what can I have her do that's interesting? And I just started drawing musical notes. And when I was just putting them in the air, but I thought, oh wait, wouldn't it be cool if she kicks the musical notes? So I tweaked my drawing just enough to be able to get that image down. And and it's one of those things where, somebody comes over to your apartment, and I have look, back in the day, you'd come over to my place and I'd have 30 sketchbooks laying around, and people would go through it, and it's like, dude, what the hell? Your stuff is so weird. It's so dark. Man, what's your obsession with drawing fat women? And just going through and making comments, just like, I was like, what the hell?
I got to see this book.
But
oh,
every time they would get to the page with midnight. Every time they would be like, oh, I like that one. Oh, I like that. That one's really good. What's with her eyes? Where are her eyes? And that in of itself became a bit of a struggle in the production of this book, because every person I showed to, where are her eyes? And I was like, I'm going to die on this hill. The original illustration, she does not have pupils. I'm not changing it. And I mercilessly, unendingly, people were like, you've got to fix the eyes. And I never did. I just went in, and instead of giving pupils, I put just like a tiny dot, like a soft focus, tiny little dot. You can see it in the book. But yeah, that was kind of the mindset back then, and I should have known back then, with everybody kind of brushing through my stuff, being like, that's weird. Universally, I love that image. So I'm really glad it kind of found its way back into my life.
I would agree, and it works so well for the story too, because I mean, not only that's when she enters the dream world is when color comes in, but that's when her face also, I don't want to say distorts, but takes on that look. And just
Right.
thinking about how much this whole thing would lose, how much this book would lose if you gave her the same face that she has when she's awake.
Right.
And I don't know. I can
That's a
see
great
why
point.
people ask. I see why so many people ask, but for me, it wouldn't, if I were to ask, it wouldn't be like, why aren't you changing that? Why aren't you giving her pupils? Like, I would ask from just the realm, just straight curiosity, like, because I love it. Why does she look like that in the dream world? Because when you see her here in real life, it looks like a real person. You were really good at illustration, Brian, by the way. I don't want to
Thank
hold
you.
this up to the camera and spoil anything, but it's damn good, people. You need to check it out.
The who didn't complain one bit about the eyes are my neighbor's girls.
Oh,
Didn't say. I mean, they just sat down and blew through it,
yeah.
and just came back and was just like, "Oh, this is great. I mean, I can draw like this too." So yeah, I'm glad I'm stuck with stuck with it. It needs to be this way, and I'm pleased with the way that it turned out. So,
As
gentlemen,
you
thank
should
you
be.
so much. Midnight, 1899.
Okay.
Less than three Happy Meals.
Hey, that's a steal for as much as anything is these days. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But we will definitely put links in the description below to midnightandmac.com, and as well as the Amazon link. Get people, unless there's an avenue you'd prefer them to use.
Amazon is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
if you want the full, and I can't even believe I'm saying this. It's awesome to say it, but if you want the whole Midnight experience, go to midnightandmac.com and you can see all the different ways. There's even a behind the scenes promotional video of me talking about the making of the book. There's a piece of original music that I had a composer create a beautiful little medley, which is Midnight's theme, and you can see that on the website as well.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm
is
talking
there
about.
any way you could send me a copy of that and I could end the episode with it?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the best when books come with music.
It really is, man. It's like, it reminds me of when we were kids and you get the books with the little 45 record in them, or in the 90s, you get a book that comes with a cassette that has, or like Teddy Ruxpin and all that kind of stuff. It's always better when you give a book a soundtrack, I think.
Yeah.
But Bryan, congratulations to you, man. This is incredible. I'm so happy for you that, your dream, not a 30-year-old character, has come back to life. And that you've learned this new talent, this coloring, and you said you paid someone on Fiverr to learn how to do that, which is incredible. Fiverr, man, it's one of the best websites out there. I can't tell you how many times we've used Fiverr.
Really, Fiverr, that's the fact that you went on and learned to do the coloring versus having someone color it for you,
or just relying on the AI. Like you said, you had the AI thing whip it up really quick, and then it looked beautiful, but the fact that you're like, no, I can't do that. I want it to, be an original work. Incredible. I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you about Fiverr. I love Fiverr. The composer that I found on Fiverr, he's done like 8 or 9 pieces for me, and his stuff just keeps getting better and better. I will also include another piece that he did. Do you remember the Office video? I made a Office video of my
that you made like a while back, where you were like kind of like showing off some of the stuff on your shelves and stuff.
Right. That's the guy that did the music for that is the guy that did the music for Midnight. So yeah. The point being, I love Fiverr too. And gentlemen, thank you so much. It's not only just giving me the opportunity to talk about my book and give me the chance to, explain it and pitch it, but it's so much fun to do it with friends. So I really appreciate the chance to hang out.
Absolutely, man. Again, anytime. And please let us know when you're in Ohio again. We need to finally get together and have a drink or get dinner or something.
That sounds great.
Would love to, man. But once again, thank you so much, Bryan. And Jack, with that being said, why don't you tell everyone what we have on the website, sir?
Go to cannedairpodcast.com where you can listen, follow, subscribe. Check out our social media, some of our YouTube videos, and if you'd like to be a guest and promote your work, send us an email on our contacts page. I think there's a Patreon and merch on there too.
Say that last part again. I talked over you.
I think there's also merch and a link to our Patreon page too. I think I've almost forgot that.
That's all right. I'll get to it in my spiel. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at canned_air and on TikTok at Canned Air Podcast. And like Jack was just saying, merch can be found on our website, cannedairpodcast.com. T-shirts, hoodies, stickers, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with our logo on it, and designs made by Joshua Bellis, pop culture inspired designs. And if you want to support us, but merch isn't your bag, you want extra content, head over to patreon.com/cannedairpod. And $5 a month gets you access to a catalog that's over 5 years, I think 5 years old and running. There's a lot of stuff on there, people. And for $5 a month, I don't think you can really go wrong. And you get a different side of us over there, don't you, Jack?
No, absolutely.
We would never release to you normies. So
no.
$5 a month gets you into the Forbidden Kingdom. And what else am I forgetting? Evergreen Podcast Network. Network we're proud to be a part of, have been a part of for about 4 years now. And so happy to be on their roster with so many other amazing podcasts. So evergreenpodcast.com. Anything else, gentlemen, before we end it?
Happy dreams.
Well said, Jack. Happy dreams to you, everyone watching. Thank you so much for watching. Be excellent to each other.